Listen, I agree with you. You have Big Bird right now giving out, medical advice and others like that. And then you have people, censoring real doctors and experts right now. I think the best thing is open discussion on all this. If it's truly misinformation, allow the people to talk it out, to discuss that. And I do see that there are people here, talking about the mandates and what they should do. And I don't want to get off the book, but I do want it to be an AMA in a sort. What would you suggest to people that are sitting there saying, hey, I actually agree with you. Like, I don't feel I should too. And I had a discussion with someone that owns a genetic company, Kashif Khan, and he owns the DNA company. Yesterday, I was talking to him. And he said, listen, we're now seeing genetic markers of people who shouldn't get it and who should. We could see that it's not a one size fits all and doesn't make sense really scientifically, even based on DNA. So what would be your advice to people out there that are scared, that are saying, I'm going to lose my job if I don't do this, and I know you've been in that position. So maybe you're the best one.
I've already lost jobs. Yeah, I've lost jobs. And honestly, like I wrote this book and I know people look at it like, people say to me, well, you're a celebrity. You have, first of all, I'm not. Secondly, I don't come from money. I grew up behind the Staten Island dump in a little condo. Like my parents worked their butts off to get anywhere, to pay off mortgages. I worked myself, to the bone to get here. So I'm not sitting on a pile of money. That's not my reality. Maybe someone else's, certainly not mine. I think there has to be a line in the sand for and everyone's is going to be different, right?
Yeah.
I know what it's like to feel unwell from the Lyme disease. I know that feeling. And I know that when you don't have your health, nothing else matters. I was feeling unwell and I was in a great job with a great salary. I actually had lingering symptoms when I co-hosted The View. I don't know if people know the show, but you have to walk on to set. Like you wave and I was adjusting the heel length of my shoes at one point because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it to the table because I'm spinning. Once I'm there, I can hold on. I mean, it was crazy. I know that feeling. So I also know that no salary, no amount of money is going to make that better if that's what I'm experiencing. So I take my health. That is my line in the sand. My line in the sand is, I know what's best for me. I have doctors that I trust and they're telling me, all of them, the same thing. That's it. That's it. And the chips will fall where they may. And that doesn't mean necessarily that I'm going to stop working. I'm not. I'm, planning other projects, but it may mean that there's a temporary pivot for me. So I think you have to figure out what your line is first. And for some people, it's themselves. Maybe you don't have a medical exemption. You just don't want to get the vaccine. Maybe it's your kid now. You're seeing what's happening with kids and these mandates that they're coming down the pike for little children with this particular vaccine. I mean, kids are not, I'm sorry, but COVID is not a threat to kids. It's not. 99.997% plus survival rate that authorizes emergency use of a vaccine. It doesn't make sense. It does. So people need to think about this, right? And I hate the word anti-vax. It's so stupid. I'm not anti-vax. Personally, like my kid has received some vaccination. That's my personal choice. But honestly, like this isn't about that. This is about looking at facts. This is about risk analysis. Everything you do, if you had a kid that went to get a measles vaccine and got anaphylaxis from it, your doctor would say, hold on a second. I'm going to write, this needs to be recorded. What you have now happening, and I have doctors that have picked up the phone and had these conversations with me. I spoke to a doctor 2 weeks ago and I know him and we had a conversation and he said, I had a patient who went and got the COVID vaccine, had anaphylaxis from it. And the company was like, well, you got to get the second one. And he was like, I can't authorize this. Right. So, at some point, it's not about health. It's not about science. I would say to people, figure out what your line is. Figure out at the end of the day, what matters most. And I understand the struggle. Believe me, I do. I went back and forth about this for a very long time because there's jobs that I would really love to do and I miss doing. But I know that if I give in and I go against my doctor's wishes and I go against what I feel is right and what I know and what I'm seeing and what I'm learning, it's not going to matter. I could have the best job in the world and I'm going to feel like uncomfortable in my own skin. And heaven forbid anything happens, then what? So I would tell people, figure out what your line is, follow your gut, talk to a trusted doctor, whoever that is, and have those conversations about your concerns and make the best decision for yourself. And that may mean that right now, you make less money. That may mean that you pivot a little bit. That may mean that you move. And I know that sounds, oh my gosh, to move, it's horrible. Sometimes you have family. I get the challenges. We're moving. We're leaving New York. We're going to move to Texas or Florida or a place where, the freedom lives, frankly. That's what I would tell people. So really think about, what happens if this or what happens if that. And if you're the people you trust, if something goes wrong, say you get any medication you take could have a side effect. Say something goes wrong. Who you're going to call? That doctor who told you not to get it in the first place? Now what? What are you going to call Bill de Blasio? Hey, Bill, I know you mandated this for me, but he's not picking up the phone and he's not going to be able to help you even if he does. So I really urge people this has gotten away from health and away from science in a really scary way. So that's what I would say.
I think it's good advice. And I think you should take advice from people who have been through disease. It's very easy to sit there when you're healthy and say, what's the worst that could happen, right? The worst that could happen is it doesn't matter that you're mandated by a job when you can't get out of bed, when you literally can't do that job or you can't provide because you've been, injured in some way or disabled in some way. And even if it's a minimal risk, you got to weigh that risk out and you got to weigh the other side of the risk and everything. And I think that's what health is all about. It's taking responsibility, weighing out risk and seeing what you want to do, but understanding that what's the worst can happen. It could be pretty bad. You see that a lot.